Hello math learners! We have already discussed how to write polynomial functions in standard form. Now, let us level up our discussion and let's discuss how to write polynomial functions in factored form. So if you want to master this kind of competency, then I suggest you finish this video. But before anything else, hit the subscribe button and notification bell for you to be updated of these cool clear math videos just like this. Hello math learners! Welcome to another session here in Math Learning with Sir Ash. This is still your free access math teacher Ash, and today we're going to discuss the most essential learning competency based lesson for quarter 2 of the grade 10 mathematics, which is all about how to write polynomial functions in factored form. We have already discussed how to write them in standard form, and now we will discuss how to do it in the factored form. For example, if you need to factor out 24, basically the factors of 24 are 8 and 3, while 8 can still be factored to 2 and 4, and 4 can still be factored as 2 and 2. So basically, the factored form of 22 is 2, 2, 2, and 3. So 2 times 2 times 2 times 3, that is 24, and that is the factored form of 24. But talking about polynomial functions, of course, we are dealing with variables, constants, and exponents, as well as the different types of polynomial functions, such as the zero polynomial function, the quadratic function, the linear function, the cubic, the quartic, and the quintic polynomial functions. So, what are the things we need to consider in factoring polynomial functions? Now, there are a lot of methods to consider on how to factor polynomial functions. Some of these things are the following: the GCF, the sum and product pattern, the grouping, the perfect square trinomial, and the difference of squares or the difference of cubes. Now, these 5 different methods of factoring are applied depending on the situation. You need to know a lot of these things and also to review yourself in factoring rational algebraic expressions for you to master how to factor the polynomial functions. But let's just have a quick review of these different methods. The GCF. Let's say you have 2x squared plus 8x. How do you factor this one? By the use of GCF, what you need to do is you take the factors of each term. What is common in the coefficients 2 and 8? What is the GCF? Of course, that is 2. What is common in x squared and x? Of course, that is x. If you extract 2x from both terms, you will have x, because 2x squared divided by 2x, that is x, and 8x divided by 2x, that is positive 4. Therefore, the factored form is 2x and x plus 4. That is by the use of GCF. Now, how about sum and product pattern? Now, for the sum and product pattern, we have here a trinomial. Basically, what you need to do is, if you have a trinomial, you will make 2 quantities and then you will factor these n terms. Those terms is known as the first and the last terms. The first term is x squared. When you factor x squared, that is x and x. Next is positive 6. What are the factors of positive 6 such that when you add them, the answer is 5 or positive 5? This is where the sum and product pattern will be applied. So what are the factors of 6? We have 1 and 6. If you add 1 and 6, the answer is 7. Wrong. How about 2 and 3? 2 and 3. If you add 2 and 3, you will have 5. Therefore, that is positive 2 and positive 3. X times x, that is x squared. 2 times 3, that is 6. If you add 2x and 3x by the use of the FOIL method, you will get the middle term, that is 5x. And this is how you apply the sum and product pattern. Now, how about the grouping? Now, my dear math learners, the grouping method is basically applied, especially if the trinomial has a leading coefficient that is bigger than 1. In this case, it is 2, right? So, if you could apply the sum and product, good for you. But if you want to have a sure thing in factoring, you can use the grouping method. How do you do that? First is you multiply the end terms, 2x squared and negative 5. That is negative 10x squared. Correct? Now, what are the factors of negative 10x squared? That is positive 10x and negative x. If you add this one, the answer is positive 9. Then, this is already the correct factors for you to use in using your grouping method. Now, what is the next step here? These two factors that will be substituted or replaced by your middle term, giving you 2x squared plus 10x minus x minus 5. So, 2x squared did not change, minus 5 did not change, but your positive 9x was changed by its factors. Now, this is where the grouping will happen. You will group the first two terms and the last two terms. And then, you extract it or you extract the common terms by the use of the GCF. What is common in 2x squared and 10x? So, for 2 and 10, the common is 2. For x squared and x, the common is x. If you extract 2x from this given binomial, you will have x plus 5. Okay. Now, we have here negative x and negative 5. The common is the negative. So, therefore, you can extract the negative 1, leaving you x plus 5. So, we have here negative 1 times x, that is negative x. Negative 1 times positive 5, that is negative 5. Now, as you can see in the two groups, the quantities are the same. Therefore, you can take them as 1, that is x plus 5. And then you can get the outside factors into one quantity, and that is 2x minus 1. So, therefore, this is the factored form of 2x squared plus 9x minus 5 by the use of the grouping method. Easy, right? Now, let us go to our fourth way, that is perfect square trinomial. Okay, math learners, in the perfect square trinomial, basically, it is a trinomial, meaning 3 terms, and the first term and the last term are perfect squares. 4x squared is a perfect square, and 9 is a perfect square. As you can see, this is considered as a squared, right? And this is considered as b squared. Of course, in order for it to have a perfect square trinomial, this is 2ab, meaning twice the product of the square root of the first and the last term. By this perfect square trinomial, the factor of this is a plus b times a plus b. So basically, if we apply this one, the square root of 4x squared is 2x. The square root of 9 is 3, so that is 3. So, you just write them together, 2x plus 3, 2x plus 3. And then, if you could check 2x and 2x, that will be 4x squared, which is your a squared, okay? 3 times 3, that is your 9, which will be representing your b squared. And then the 2ab here is twice of 2x and 3. So 2x times 3 is 6. And then twice of 6x is 12x. Therefore, this is a correct factored form given if you have a perfect square trinomial. Easy, right? Now, let us go to our final method, which is difference of squares and cubes. Okay, math learners. For the difference of squares, of course, that is two squares or two perfect squares being subtracted with each other. X squared is a perfect square and 4 is a perfect square. This is subtraction, so the difference of two squares. Now, how do you factor the difference of 2 squared? Now, remember, if you have a squared minus b squared, the factored form of this is 8 minus b times a plus b, or a plus b times a minus b. So since a squared represents our x squared here, and the b squared here is also representing the minus 4, or the 4, the factored form of x squared minus 4 is x minus 2 times x plus 2. And that is how you get the difference of two squares. Now, how about the difference of two cubes? Okay, math learners, we have here the difference of two cubes, but I also included the sum of two cubes so that you can also be reviewed in the discussion of how to factor such given expressions. Okay, so we have here 64x cubed minus 125, and we have here 64x cubed plus 125. Both are perfect cubes. The 64x cubed and the 125 are perfect cubes. However, the signs are different because when we talk about difference, then that is subtraction. When we talk about sum, that is addition. Now, how do you factor the difference of two cubes and the sum of two cubes? Remember that if you have two cubes such as a cubed minus b cubed, the factor of this one is basically you get the first binomial. The binomial is basically the cube root of each term, and then you will have a trinomial, which is a squared plus ab plus b squared. While in the sum of two cubes, if you have a cube plus b cube, how to factor that is you just get the first binomial, and the sign of that binomial is the same as your given, the sum, and your trinomial, which is a squared minus ab plus b squared. So as you can see, the difference among the two ways is very eminent. This is the same as the given. This is the same as the given. And then in the trinomial, they are both the same, the first term. The second term is opposite. So this minus and plus will be opposite with each other. So same goes here. But the b squared will always be positive. Okay. So let us try to solve our given expression. 64x cubed minus 125. 64x cubed represents our a cube, and 125 represents our b cube. Now, what is the cube root of 64? That is, okay, very good. That is 4, because 4 times 4 times 4 is 64. And x cubed, that is x. So what is the cube root of 125? That is 5, because 5 times 5 times 5 is 125. So therefore, this is minus 5. So we have our first binomial. So basically, for the trinomial, you just use this given notation, and that is a squared. So you just get the square for 4x, and that is 16x squared. A times b, so this is a and b. So 4x times 5, that is 20. So positive 20x. And then the square of 5 is 25. So plus 25. Easy, right? So you have now the factored form of your difference of two cubes. Now basically, in this part, the same concept, that is 4x plus 5, because we are using the sum of two cubes. And then the trinomial is the square of 4x, that is 16x squared. Then the product, 4x times 5, that is 20. But we will use minus, so minus 20x, and then 5 times 5, that is 25. So positive 25. So you have now the factors for your difference of two cubes and your sum of two cubes. So now we will have our second part for this discussion on my next video. If you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, then consider subscribing, and thank you for listening. Keep safe always.